Hello, water managers and SWMS users. My name is Oskar Hurst, and I'm here with the Water Management and Systems Division at HEC, the Hydrologic Engineering Center. For this lecture, we're going to be covering SWMS graphics and scriptings. The objectives are to identify the different plotting capabilities that we have within the CAVI, as well as identifying the different scripting capabilities that we can use within SWMS. We're going to do this in 6 parts. The first, opening plots. The second, viewing all the different components within a plot. The third, looking at how we can customize our plots. The fourth, the different uses for scripting within the CAVI. 5, all the different components within our scripting resources within the CAVI, as well as 6, a brief dive into the scripting language that we use. First, we're going to look at how to open plots. And so plots are visual displays of time series information within the CAVI. So first, we have to organize our time series data that we want to visualize. In order to do this, we have to enter the Setup tab, which you can do by clicking the highlighted Setup icon on the screen. This will bring you to the Setup view, which an example of which is shown here. You can see a GIS map covered in time series icons. These time series icons help us organize all of our time series data into one location. We can place a time series icon down anywhere on the map by selecting the time series icon tool in our left toolbar, then control left clicking where we want to place it on our map. To then edit the time series that are stored within the time series icon, all we have to do is right click our time series icon, which will bring down a drop down menu, which we can then select the edit option. This edit option will bring up the time series icon editor. So here within the editor, we can add and remove all the different time series that we want to keep track of and visualize and plot. In order to do this, all we have to do is add in the dataset name for the time series that we want to visualize, as well as copy and paste the path name for the DSS file in which that time series is being stored. Once that's all completed, you can then enter and plot the visualization in the Visualization tab. So to enter the Visualization tab, what we have to do is click this visualization icon here, highlighted above, in which case we can see another example of our GSI view. But this time, now our time series icons are being displayed as graph icons. But all we have to do, same as before, is if we right click one of these graph icons, it'll bring down a drop down menu with the plotting option. And if we click plot, it will display our time series icon using the default template that we have within SWMS. So here's a quick example of one of the plots that might be displayed, and its time series information shown above on these curves. Now this brings us into the different components that are within a plot. The plotting components are organized within viewports. These viewports are labeled, X, Y, or the column, or the row, then the column. So for example, this viewport on the top, which contains this curve and graph, is labeled viewport 1-1, meaning that it's within the first row in the first column. However, we can see that the viewport underneath it is labeled viewport 2-1, meaning that it's within the second row in the first column. So this gives you a hint that we can have many, many different viewports all within one plotting view, as long as it's within the 2D rows and columns that we predefined. Another component are the y-axes. Each viewport can have 2 y-axes, a left y-axis, which we label y1, and a right y-axis, which we label y2. Each of the different y-axes can represent different units and have a different key for them. This is useful because we can stack multiple curves into one viewport, and each of the different curves can then, their y values can represent different units. So where we can have two distinct y-axes for each viewport, we can only have one x-axis that's shared between all viewports within that column. So the x-axis can represent time, which is standard for most time series, but it also has the functionality to represent any other data for different paired data objects stored within DSS files. Another component is the curves themselves. So the curves are the graphed data that is stored within our DSS files, which are implemented onto a viewport. Every viewport must have at least one curve. And last here we have the legend. The legend is a key for you to then describe to the viewer which curves are representing which time series data. We also have within our time series view the time series, the plotting toolbar, which contains the selector tool and the zoom tool. The selector tool is useful for right-clicking different components upon the plotting view, which would then bring up editing menus. The zoom tool is useful because you can use it to drag over different sections of a graph, which will then expand that section into the entire viewport to zoom in. To zoom out, all you have to do is right-click. Another useful feature is callout and marker lines. So a callout is a displayed point within a curve in order to show the viewers, unique or particular information at any XY pair on a time series. Whereas the marker line is used to apply either an X or Y access line. That way you can provide some reference to particular data and contrast on your graphs. Next, we're going to be covering customizing our plots in our next lecture. For any questions or help or additional training, please check these links or feel free to email us or ask questions. Thank you.